What could possibly drive a successful CEO to threaten abandoning his own thriving company that he built from the ground up unless he is granted complete access and authority within a completely separate business owned by someone else? And why would Lu Yuning stake his entire professional empire on demands related to Zhao Lusi's company in a move that industry experts are calling either the most romantic gesture in business history or evidence of dangerous obsession that should concern everyone who cares about both stars? The corporate entertainment world was thrown into absolute chaos yesterday, when leaked internal documents and corroborated testimony from multiple sources revealed that Lu Yuning has issued an ultimatum to parties involved in both his company and Zhao Lusi's entertainment enterprise, essentially threatening to resign from his own CEO position and abandon the company he founded, unless he is granted unrestricted access to Zhao Lusi's business operations, decision-making processes, and company resources in what amounts to a demand for co-control over an entity he has no legal ownership stake in. The audacity and apparent irrationality of this demand has sent shockwaves through the business community and sparked intense debate about whether Lu Yuning's judgment has become completely compromised by his feelings for Zhao Lusi or whether there is some strategic logic behind this move that observers are failing to understand because they lack crucial information about agreements or understandings between the two stars. Why would Lu Yuning believe he has any right to demand full access to a company he doesn't own? And what does Zhao Lusi's reported reaction to his ultimatum reveal about the power dynamics and emotional entanglements between these two celebrities whose professional and personal boundaries have become so blurred that nobody can determine where one ends and the other begins? According to sources close to both companies, Lu Yuning's demand was delivered through formal legal channels as well as through direct personal communication with Zhao Lusi herself, creating a situation where business obligations and personal relationships have collided in a way that makes rational resolution almost impossible. The ultimatum reportedly includes specific demands for Lu Yuning to have access to Zhao Lusi's company's financial records, the authority to participate in major business decisions, involvement in talent management and project selection, and essentially co-equal executive power despite having no formal role or ownership position that would justify such extraordinary access. The fact that he is willing to destroy his own successful business empire rather than accept being excluded from Zhao Lusi's professional sphere suggests either that he has completely lost perspective on appropriate professional boundaries, or that his relationship with Zhao Lusi involves dimensions and agreements that would make his demand seem more reasonable if the full context were known. But here is the detail that has legal experts, business analysts, and concerned fans absolutely horrified. Lu Yuning's ultimatum includes a deadline that has already passed, meaning that by his own stated terms, he should have already begun the process of resigning from his company and dismantling the business infrastructure he has spent years building. Yet there has been no official announcement or action, leaving everyone in a state of suspended confusion about whether the ultimatum was a bluff, whether negotiations are ongoing behind the scenes, or whether Lu Yuning is preparing to follow through on his threat in a way that will shock the industry and potentially destroy both his career and his company. The silence from official representatives of both Lu Yuning's company and Zhao Lusi's enterprise has been deafening and ominous, with neither organization willing to confirm or deny the reports about the ultimatum and both declining all media requests for clarification about the current status of Lu Yuning's position with his own company or his relationship with Zhao Lusi's business. This information vacuum has created an environment of intense speculation where rumors and theories proliferate unchecked, with some people convinced that Lu Yuning has already effectively resigned and is simply delaying the formal announcement, while others believe that Zhao Lusi has capitulated to his demands to prevent him from destroying himself professionally, though neither scenario has been confirmed or provides a satisfying explanation for the bizarre situation. The origins of Lu Yuning's ultimatum reportedly trace back to his recent joining of Zhao Lusi's company in what was publicly presented as a collaborative partnership, where he would be part of her talent roster and participate in projects developed by her enterprise. At the time of that announcement, which itself generated massive publicity and speculation about the nature of their relationship, the arrangement was characterized as Lu Yuning maintaining his own company, while also being affiliated with Zhao Lusi's operations in a way that would allow them to work together more closely and develop joint projects. However, according to insider sources, Lu Yuning apparently expected that this affiliation would come with substantial authority and access within Zhao Lusi's company, expectations that were either not clearly communicated during initial negotiations, or that Zhao Lusi and her team never intended to fulfill. The specific trigger for Lu Yuning's ultimatum appears to have been a series of incidents where he attempted to exercise influence or obtain information within Zhao Lusi's company only to be blocked or limited by her executive team who did not recognize his authority to make demands or access sensitive business information. Sources describe Lu Yuning becoming increasingly frustrated and angry as he repeatedly encountered these boundaries, interpreting them as personal rejection by Zhao Lusi, or as evidence that promises made to him were not being honored. The escalation from frustration to formal ultimatum apparently occurred after a particularly contentious meeting where Lu Yuning demanded to review Zhao Lusi's company financial statements and upcoming project plans only to be told that such information was confidential and not available to him given his lack of official executive role within the organization. The content of Lu Yuning's ultimatum, as reported by sources who have seen the formal communication, is extraordinary in its scope and audacity. He reportedly demands not just courtesy access or consultation rights, but actual decision-making authority equivalent to what Zhao Lusi herself holds as the owner and primary executive of her company. Specific demands include the right to approve or veto major business decisions, access to all company communications and internal documents, authority over talent management decisions affecting artists signed to Zhao Lusi's company, and input into project development and financing decisions. These demands essentially amount to Lu Yuning requesting co-CEO status or something approximating co-ownership authority without having invested capital in the company or having any legal basis for such extraordinary power. The consequences that Lu Yuning threatens if his demands are not met are equally extraordinary and self-destructive. His ultimatum states that if full access to Zhao Lusi's company is not granted, he will resign from his own company where he serves as CEO and majority shareholder, effectively abandoning the business he created and leaving it to be managed by others or potentially to collapse entirely without his leadership and vision. For someone who has invested years of effort and substantial resources into building a successful entertainment company, the willingness to simply walk away over access to someone else's business suggests either that Lu Yuning has completely lost rational perspective, or that his own company has become less important to him than his connection to Zhao Lusi and involvement in her professional activities. Zhao Lusi's response to Lu Yuning's ultimatum has been reported in contradictory ways by different sources, reflecting either genuine uncertainty about how she reacted or deliberate misinformation being spread to obscure the actual situation. Some sources claim that Zhao Lusi was shocked and angry when confronted with Lu Yuning's demands, viewing them as inappropriate and presumptuous attempts to control her business and decisions. These accounts describe her as refusing the ultimatum outright and telling Lu Yuning that his affiliation with her company would be terminated if he could not respect appropriate boundaries and accept the role that was actually offered to him rather than demanding authority he had not earned or been granted. Alternative accounts of Zhao Lusi's reaction paint a very different picture, suggesting that she was devastated by the ultimatum and torn between her desire to protect her company's independence and her unwillingness to be responsible for Lu Yuning destroying his own business out of frustration over access to hers. These sources describe her as attempting to negotiate compromises that might satisfy Lu Yuning's desire for involvement without completely surrendering her authority over her own company, proposing arrangements where he would have consultative input on certain decisions or access to some but not all company information. The fact that such dramatically different versions of her response are circulating suggests that either the situation is extremely fluid with Zhao Lusi's position changing as she processes the situation, or that deliberate misinformation is being spread to obscure the true dynamics from public view. The legal implications of Lu Yuning's ultimatum and potential resignation from his own company are complex and potentially severe. As CEO and major shareholder, Lu Yuning has fiduciary duties to his company's investors, employees, and other stakeholders that might be violated if he abandons the business for reasons unrelated to its operations or performance. Shareholders could potentially sue Lu Yuning for breach of fiduciary duty if they can demonstrate that his resignation damages their investment and was motivated by personal rather than business considerations. Additionally, the company likely has contracts and obligations that depend on Lu Yuning's continued leadership, and his resignation could trigger breaches or create liability issues that affect numerous parties beyond just himself and Zhao Lusi. Business analysts examining this situation from a strategic perspective struggle to identify any rational business logic that would justify Lu Yuning's position and ultimatum. Even if he believes that closer integration between his company and Zhao Lusi's would create valuable synergies and opportunities, the appropriate approach would be to negotiate a formal merger, acquisition, or partnership agreement that clearly defines ownership, authority, and financial arrangements. Simply demanding access and authority without offering anything in exchange and threatening to destroy his own company, if refused, represents such a departure from normal business practice that it can only be understood as personal rather than professional motivation driving his actions. The impact on employees and other stakeholders in Lu Yuning's company has become a source of serious concern among business ethics experts and labor advocates. The company employs dozens of people whose livelihoods depend on its continued successful operation, and Lu Yuning's threat to resign and potentially cause the business to fail represents a profound disregard for their welfare and security. Additionally, the company has contractual relationships with artists, vendors, and partners who have made business decisions based on expectations of Lu Yuning's continued leadership, and his potential departure could harm all these parties through no fault of their own. Some observers have called for Lu Yuning's board of directors or major shareholders to intervene and potentially remove him from his position if he is prioritizing personal obsessions over his responsibilities to the company and its stakeholders. The cultural context around business and personal relationships in Chinese entertainment industry adds some nuance to understanding Lu Yuning's actions, though it does not fully excuse or explain them. In Chinese business culture, personal relationships and trust are often more important than formal legal structures in determining how partnerships and collaborations function, and it is not uncommon for business arrangements to be based more on personal understanding than on detailed contracts. Within this framework, Lu Yuning might genuinely believe that his close relationship with Zhao Lusi entitles him to the access and authority he is demanding, viewing formal legal boundaries as less important than the personal connection and mutual trust that should exist between them. However, even within Chinese business norms, his ultimatum and threat to destroy his own company represent extreme and inappropriate behavior that goes far beyond typical relationship-based business practices. Speculation about the romantic dimensions of Lu Yuning's ultimatum has been intense and unavoidable given how clearly his demands are motivated by personal rather than business considerations. Many observers interpret his insistence on full access to Zhao Lusi's company as essentially demanding to be fully integrated into every aspect of her life, including her professional activities, viewing the business access as a proxy for personal intimacy and partnership. From this perspective, Lu Yuning's ultimatum is less about actual desire to manage Zhao Lusi's company, and more about his need to be central to her life, and to not be excluded from any significant part of her existence. The self-destructive nature of his threat to resign from his own company if refused suggests the kind of all-or-nothing thinking that can characterize intense romantic attachment, where being partially in someone's life feels worse than not being in it at all. Alternative psychological interpretations suggest that Lu Yuning's ultimatum might reflect control issues or insecurity rather than healthy romantic interest. The demand for access to all aspects of Zhao Lusi's company and authority over her business decisions could indicate a problematic need to control or oversee her activities, rather than trust her to manage her own affairs. Mental health professionals note that extreme demands for access and information, especially when coupled with threats of self-harm or self-destructive behavior if refused, can be warning signs of unhealthy attachment patterns or even emotionally abusive dynamics. While Lu Yuning's threat to resign from his own company technically harms himself rather than Zhao Lusi, the implicit pressure created by making her feel responsible for his potential self-destruction represents a form of emotional manipulation that should be concerning regardless of his conscious intentions. The response from investors and board members in Lu Yuning's company has been reportedly panicked and angry as they attempt to understand the situation and protect their interests. Emergency board meetings have allegedly been convened to discuss whether Lu Yuning is fit to continue as CEO given his apparent prioritization of personal matters over company welfare, and some investors are reportedly exploring legal options to prevent him from resigning or to ensure that if he does resign, appropriate succession planning and transition processes are in place to minimize damage to the company. The fact that Liu Yuning apparently issued his ultimatum without consulting his board or preparing them for potential consequences reflects a level of disregard for corporate governance and stakeholder interests that could have legal ramifications beyond just the immediate situation. Industry competitors and other entertainment companies are watching this situation with a mixture of schadenfreude and concern, recognizing that if Liu Yuning follows through on his threat and his company collapses or struggles as a result, it could create opportunities for them to acquire assets or talent at favorable prices, but also sets a troubling precedent about mixing personal and professional matters in ways that harm businesses and employees.